Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Maine SBDC webinar. My name is Kelsey Reardon, and I'm with the state office. And we have a special presentation today. We have Maine SBDC at CEI Business Advisor, Ann McAlhany, partnered with Carver Library in Searsport to present this short seminar on writing a business plan. So we're going to go over the basics for getting started with a business plan. If you are not familiar with the Maine SBDC, we are the small business centers of Maine, but of America. There's one in every state, and we are a federally funded program. So we provide free confidential business advising for small businesses. So essentially anything you could need help with, we are there for you. We can't give legal advice or like accounting advice, I think, but we can give you some great suggestions for those to find those answers, and we can let you know what you need to look further into. And so if you're looking at starting a business, if you've never started at all, we can help you. If you are well on your way and looking to sell a business, we can help you. But today it seems like we've got a lot of people getting started out. So thank you so much for joining us. We will ask you to stay muted throughout the presentation, but please use the chat to submit any questions you have along the way. Also feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, maybe where in the state you're from, and what kind of business you're going for. We're also wondering, how did you find out about today? Was it through the SBDC? Was it through the Carver Library? And so it sounds like the library wants to support local businesses also, and they want to know how they can better do that. So if these types of webinars are helpful for you, what kinds of topics are you looking to learn more about? So if you would let us know in the chat how you found out about us. Also, yes, happy International Women's Day. I can only see some of your faces right now. And from a social gender construct, it looks like we've got a lot of women here today. So congratulations to all of these women business owners. We are big fans at the SBDC of all businesses, but we love to be able to help any underserved groups. And so this is a great day to spotlight those businesses. I'll put a plug in for our social media pages. If you don't follow us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn, all of those places, you can find us. And we are asking people to tag their favorite small women-owned small business in all of our social posts today. So if you already own a business, you should go tag your business in our social media posts. And so however we can help along the way. I will be taking roll call. So yeah, if you're under a different name, that's great. Introduce yourself in the chat through that. Like I said, if you have any questions, submit them in the chat, but you will also receive a follow-up email from me that will include a link to the recording and the slides and any other resources we go over. So if you have extra questions afterwards, feel free to respond to any of the emails that you've gotten from me, and they will end up in the right place. Otherwise, I think we're ready to get started today, so I will pass it over to Ann.
Sure, thank you. First, I would say before I jump in, would Sue from the Carver Library like to say a word or two, and then I'll jump in.
Yes, hi everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm here just as Kelsey said, we're trying to support small businesses in our area, but also we're really glad that everyone else is also able to join in. And yeah, we have open ears, so we just want to know how we can help with information or a fax machine or whatnot. And if you want more programs either during lunchtime or in the evening or what topics, just give us all of that information and we'll see what we can do. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Sue. And so thanks to Sue for actually spurring this workshop. She reached out to me and we agreed to collaborate on putting this together and other things that might be needed. I'm Ann McAlhany, a business advisor in the Bangor, Maine office with the Maine SBDC. And I've probably lived pretty much all my adult life somewhere between Bangor and Belfast. So I certainly know where Searsport is. As I said, I've been a business advisor. Well, I'm in the Bangor office with the Maine SBDC, hosted by CEI, and have been here for jeepers over 15 years now. And it's been a great privilege to work with many small businesses. I'll jump in because it's not all about me. You're welcome to ask about my bio later, but I know I promised to do this in a fairly short amount of time, so we'll stay focused to the task at hand. Kelsey pretty well covered the housekeeping details, so thank you, Kelsey, for keeping us on track. She talked about who we are as the Maine SBDC, and I'll say one of the huge advantages of working with the Maine SBDC is that I am part of a network. There's certain things I know more than others. My background before this job was really in the food world, as well as in warehousing, inventory management, things like that. But I have colleagues who've had other experiences, and I can always reach out to them if there's questions where I'm stumped or just don't feel like I'm coming up with the answers to help clients. So I'm part of a larger network, which is a real huge blessing. Objectives for today. I want to talk about really two things. Would like for you to come away from this thinking about. Our topic is writing a business plan. So for content, what I would like you to come away with is understanding why you need to write a business plan and what goes into a business plan. What are some of those elements? And as far as format, there's certain things, therefore, that I won't be covering. I really won't talk about licensing or registering your business or legal entity, not a lot about marketing. Those we have other workshops, and I'm glad to follow up with you separately. So we'll sort of keep those off the table as far as details concerned. As I've said, we'll stick to 30 minutes. So my objective is to be completed with with my part of the presentation by 12:30. And then certainly I'm willing and able to stay longer to answer questions. So we'll tend to shoot the questions later, but I encourage everyone to stay for the questions because often it's the Q&A where the meat of the conversation is. That's where your questions are. Oh, I didn't even think about that. And to cover that might be a question somebody else really wanted to address as well. So Kelsey will throw up a quick poll for us, right, Kelsey? Just to get a little nudge of who's in the audience, if you will. And I'm gonna take a sip of tea. So I don't know if others can, I don't always know what others can see when I'm presenting, but the poll's coming up. It looks like a chunk of people don't know where to start. There's probably some others, because I think I've seen some colleagues on here. Some people are thinking about starting. So different stages of the starting. A couple people already maybe making sales and need to drill down into more details. So thank you, Kelsey. All right. Third of the people have an idea but don't know where to start, and then it goes from there. So thank you. So thank you for jumping in on that. Hold on. There he is. It's always helpful to start with definitions. Right? When I say business plan, what are we talking about? And in this case, we are referred, or at least I am using as the premise, is that a business plan is some sort of written document that describes your business. Now, startups need business plans, at least in my opinion, but also existing businesses or businesses that are expanding often have a need for a business plan as well. Theirs will be different. Different might have different elements in it, but it will still contain the same core components. When we think about a business plan, as we drill down, there are two pieces, if you will. One is the why do we want to write a business plan, and then what is in it. So we'll now take that apart a little bit more and talk about why. what's the objective of writing that business plan, who is my audience for it, and then we'll talk about what's actually in that content. If it's a piece of paper, what's in that narrative, and also the fact that there's usually some numbers attached with the narrative for a business plan. As I mentioned, why do we need to write a business plan? Well, for one, it becomes a wonderful roadmap for where we're headed. Often to write it down helps us understand what we want to do. Sometimes committing it to paper makes us make decisions. We can test the idea to see if it really is this where I want to head. Certainly, the better we plan, the greater the likelihood that we'll be successful. And then there's oftentimes I meet up with folks who need to write a business plan because the lender said I had to. I'm going to a lender for some funds, and the lender says I need a business plan and cash flow projections. Can you help me? That is not an uncommon request that we get. I will note, though, that a business plan is a living document. As soon as you write something, by tomorrow, it could have changed. So refer to it often. Feel free to update it. The information that goes into that plan, I've had clients go back to it and say, oh, I forgot. That was a great marketing idea I had. Because when we're brainstorming and putting things together at the beginning, then once we launch our business, often we get so involved, we forget certain things we had worked on so hard earlier. So it can be helpful to step back and then look at our business plan later once we get it written. Unfortunately, my friends, a business plan is not just a writing exercise, it's also a research paper. That doesn't mean it has to meet the MLA style standards or needs a certain type of font or X number of pages. But a business plan really is only as good as the research that goes into figuring out what goes in those pieces. The more thorough you are, the better you are able to weed out some things you might not want to do, and also focus on the direction that you want to take your business. Focus on how and not what. And by that, I mean things like, I find a lot of folks are, especially for us who are visual, will think about, well, I'm going to start a restaurant. It'll have 20 tables and I want red check tablecloths. All that's great. But really the business plan needs to focus even more so on how I will get those people sitting at those tables with the red check tablecloths. How will I pay my employees? How will I have enough funds to order the supplies for my vendors? So think largely about how, not just the what. The what can be important, but people often get into the describing the vision, which is a descriptor, not how the process is of getting to that point. And as it says, the market's always changing. Certainly 2 years ago, we really had not heard of something called COVID, but certainly now it's very much a part of our world. I see Sue is sitting with the mask on because she's probably in a different office. I'm in an office all by myself. But certainly there are parts of businesses that change, that always, part of the external world certainly influences our business and our business planning. Primarily a business, so one of the reasons for the business plan is to help us determine that the plan for us primarily, and then if we're going to a lender, we'll need to prove it to them as well, is that your business plan is both feasible and desirable. And what I mean by that is feasible means it's something I actually think I want to do when I start to look at all the details. For instance, I mentioned I was in the food world in the past. And at one point I thought, I think I want to get out in front of people. I want to open a retail place because I was wholesale, open a retail place. And then I started thinking about what that would involve. It meant I was committed to different hours. It meant I would have had to have employees because I couldn't have done it all by myself. And then really it became something I didn't want to do because I just chose not to go the employee route. But there's another piece about making whether, so that was for me the desirable part, more or less. But feasible would be something like, I want to start a cafe. It's in a small location. Again, I mentioned earlier, let's say it's only got, I can only seat 20 people, but when I start to work my numbers and realize what I need for labor to operate this, because I really only want to work 4 days a week, so I'm going to have to hire in other people to help me. Then I look at what my labor costs are. I suddenly find that I really can't operate that business unless I'm open like 16 hours a day, and I can't be open 16 hours a day. So there's elements of that business that aren't feasible anymore. The numbers just don't work in order for me to operate the business in the way I want to. So feasible and desirable are two pieces that, whether it's desirable for me as a human being, or whether it's even feasible because I can get the numbers that I need, are two important elements of thinking about a business plan that we embed in what we need the business plan to do for us. So that was a little bit about the what goes into it. Excuse me, that was a little bit about the why we need to write a business plan for us, maybe for a lender. Just a quick second, Kelsey, are there any questions I need to deal with in the chat at this point as I take a breath and then turn to the next?
Not right off the bat, directed at what you've said so far.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's dig in a little bit about more, probably why you showed up was to think about, gee, there's so many templates out there. Where do I even start writing that business plan? I get confused because they talk about this and they talk about that and they talk about customers and they talk about market and they talk about advertising versus tactics. Where do I even start? So let's dig in and think about what are some of the components you should start with. Now, pardon that, ignore that part because that's Ann wasn't doing good at working on the PowerPoint and she couldn't figure it out how to get rid of that. So that needs to come later. So pretend you're not looking at that, okay? Where I want to start is with this circle in the middle. I'm thinking about 3 circles, 3 components that are critical to any business. The first circle in the center is this one called sales and marketing. And my punchline has already been given away because there's 3 of them and some people don't like all 3 of them. But to me, any business plan starts with sales and marketing because it's always about the customer. Who is my target market? Who am I selling to? How are they finding me, both virtually and physically? What kind of things, products or services are they looking for? How am I different from the competition? To me, sales and marketing is at the core of any business plan because quite frankly, that's all about the customer. And if there's no customer, I think there's really generally no business. It's all about that customer. So start there. But a lot of times we get into business because of the operations piece, right? We like making grandmother's soup recipe and we know we're a pretty good cook. And that's why we want to start a food related business because we're good in the kitchen. Or, gee, I've really always loved tinkering on cars. I'm really good at going out in the garage and figuring out how to make that car work better or more efficiently, or I always change my own oil, so why don't I do it for others? Sometimes we're drawn into a business because of the operation piece. We like the doing part, making things, fixing things. That's what draws us into a business oftentimes, is that doing piece of the business. But then there's also this other third circle of any business that's the numbers piece. Because now we've moved from hobby to business. I might like cooking for my friends and my neighbors, and I love having people over and gathering around the table at Thanksgiving. But really, we're talking now about a business. It's not just about, do I like the doing part, but can I make enough money for it to pay for itself and pay for me however much I need to take out of the business. And that's where you can now read that line at the bottom, which says, most people don't have equal skills in all 3 areas and often don't even like one of them. Now I can make some guesses about the part that people often don't even like. I see a couple of smiles and a couple of boxes out there. Would anyone want to hazard a guess as to which of those 3 circles people tend to not really like? I'm happy for someone to speak up if they'd like to. If not, I'll charge on.
We've got a few people saying accounting in the chat.
How could I have guessed? It's the numbers. Oh, I don't like numbers. But so the part of the business plan is that we have to acknowledge all three of those circles are there, and we need to pay attention to all of them. But it's no shame on us if I say, I don't really like numbers, but it means I have to compensate for it, and I have to go find someone who does like numbers to do the numbers for me. And my job, and now as the business owner, is to read the reports from somebody who did the data entry into QuickBooks and kept my numbers up to date. And I don't think that, and for me not to think, oh, I'm going to be a failure if I don't figure out how to work QuickBooks. You know, you're not. You might be a failure if you don't figure out how to have somebody else do it for you. But so those to me are the three components of a business plan, with that arc over it that's called the business description. The business description is more the narrative piece about some elements of who I am, what's my legal entity, where am I located, what are the products and services I'm offering. There's a business description piece, but the core of the plan starts with the customer in the center. We have some operations that have to get done to deliver the product or service, and we need to take care of the numbers piece. I'm just trying to watch the time a little bit. And then they're all interrelated, as we can see. Next, what I want to do is I want to drill down into some of those areas. So again, those are the core pieces of the business plan. The content will show up in those three areas with the business description across the top to me. So to me, there's 4 sections of a business plan: business description, marketing plan, management and operations, and accounting or numbers or some sort of numbers piece. Marketing plan. It's really about what kind of business am I in? Am I selling a product or a service? Who are my primary customers? Who's wandering into that cafe I've referred to a couple of times, right? For those red check tablecloths, to sit at those red check tables. Are they getting sandwiches? Is it takeout? Is it fast food? Is it prepared food? What's my average ticket? Are they buying things that's like a bakery with coffee and a muffin, or are they sitting down and eating lasagna, or is it an ethnic food that I'm preparing? Who are those target customers? What are they willing and able to pay? And how will I find them, let them know I exist in order to bring them into my establishment? Again, critical pieces of a business plan. And really, I got this slide here because I like the picture. It was colorful, right? But it's also a good way to think about the customer funnel, because again, the customers are the core and the heart of our business. We need to acquire customers. We want to keep the ones we've got. Certain businesses have repeat customers, and the sort of thought is that it's easier to keep a customer than it is to, it's less expensive to keep a customer than to acquire a new one. So how do we keep those customers? And then how do we grow that customer base and add more customers to our business? So think about the customer funnel and how we'll handle getting customers into our business for our product or service. So that's the marketing, just a quick introduction to marketing plan. And as you can see there it is. You can see, how will I win people over, whether it's loyalty programs? Do I use social media? That's certainly a piece now. If I'm in a certain location, will I have a sign? Will my marketing be consistent? Will I have a website, logos? What's my appearance? If I've got employees, will they all wear t-shirts that have my logo on it so that everyone can start to associate with my brand? So all about the customer and how you get the message out. Next would be just to think about management and operations. This is where people often think, where I encourage people to write their bio. It's really a narrative bio. Who am I and what am I bringing to the business? Especially when that business plan is headed toward a lender. To at least, it's not really about your resume, but what are the skills and the things and the experiences I've had that contribute so that I will be successful operating this business. In some businesses, we're small, we don't have employees, so some of this won't be relevant. But if we have employees, then what will those employees do? What are their salaries, benefits? How will I keep my employees right now? It's a really tough question. Are there benefits I can offer, a fixed schedule, working certain part-time days? How will I attract and keep my my employees? And then there's that part that everyone likes, right? The money. It sort of wanders in and wanders out. But for the business plan, it's important to think about at least these three sections of numbers. If it's a startup, we're definitely thinking about sources and uses of funds. If I'm starting up, how much money do I need to get started, and where is that money coming from? Some might come from my right pocket, some might come from my left, some might come from my piggy bank, maybe some's coming from a lender. Where's the money coming from, and do I have enough to adequately start? The lack of cash is one of the biggest reasons that running out of cash is one of the biggest reasons that businesses fail. If you're headed to a lender, embedded in your business plan, you'll want to talk about the C's of credit. Again, this is lender specific, but do I have a good credit score? Do I have cash that I'm bringing to the project? So cash in, cash out, and credit score are the top three things that I think of as the C's. Other things about my capacity to operate the business, but the C's of credit would be addressed in a business plan headed to a lender. And then there's those cash flow projections, a chart that shows how the money runs through the business. Really helpful for you whether or not you need a lender or not. Definitely lenders will be looking for them. Why do we even do cash flow projections? Is it just a waste of time or something to make me pull my hair out because I don't like numbers? Well, hopefully not. But they can help to talk about feasibility. They're needed for financing, can help us make pricing decisions. I want to hire someone, but can I afford them? It's a way to do what if scenarios to think about, help us make better decisions. It's also the budgeting, and especially with many Maine businesses, we're seasonal. I have money parts of the year, and parts of the year I don't have as much money coming into my business. It's helpful to know that. So for one, I know in October or November how much money I need in my piggy bank to carry me through till next May, when money might start coming back into my business. So to project seasonality, and then if I need to earn a certain amount of money in this business, can I do it or not? And this is just a quick look at a cash flow projection. It is not as scary as you think. I have had, believe it or not, honestly, clients who walked away and say, oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was. We tend to be scared of it, but there's a way to go about it. Certainly thinking about what are our costs that don't change, and then we think about the things that will money coming into the business that could vary, and there's a way that we can walk through it. I don't have time to go into detail now, and that's really not the point of this workshop, but just to give you a little heads up about a cash flow projection, which is to me just a big fill in the blank. So if you like crossword puzzles, you'll love it. Just a nod to taxes. With any business and business planning, you need to think about the taxes that you will need to pay, whether it be income taxes or payroll taxes if you have employees, and don't forget about sales tax. The money that comes into your cash register if you're selling products, that sales tax money is not really your money. It belongs to the, in this case, the state. So don't forget to set aside your own sales tax revenue. And then lastly, as I mentioned, just overarching is some description of the business is often the first section of a business plan, to give an introduction about what is the nature of the business, what is a product or service being sold, and a little bit about the ownership and the legal structure. Putting all the pieces together, there's just a couple more slides here. I think we're about over my limit, so bear with me maybe 2 more minutes. putting all those pieces together. It seems like a lot of pieces that aren't even from the same crossword puzzle, right? But here's what I think they look like when we stack them up into a narrative, right? That business description, then we tend to talk about the marketing plan, competition strategy, management and operations, and the financial elements we talked about are the core 3 sections with the business description. And then often at the end, there's an appendix with some supporting documents. And the appendix can cover everything from a copy of a lease if you're in a build and if you're going into a physical space, quotes for equipment, copies of marketing materials, and so forth. Lastly, where to find us. There's my email. You'll get a copy of the slides at the end. Reach out to the Maine SBDC.org if you are in a different area of the state and want to contact someone in your area. We're still working virtually right now, so we're all working by Zoom and are easily accessible. And lastly, a quick shout out for a cohort starting up. The next one starts up, oh, there it is. The 31st of March is called Peers and Pros. We meet six weeks, 6 times, and delve into more details about starting your business. Now, Kelsey, thank you for bearing with me. I went a minute or 2 over, but I'm happy to take questions from that presentation I flew through.
Well done. Thank you for it. We have not had any super specific questions, so if anyone has them, plug them in now. Some people were wondering about the flow chart template, so the flow of cash flow.
The cash flow. Yep.
Is that like, do you have like a downloadable version of that, or do we have that on our website?
Yep, I can certainly get people. There's it has actually, the original document is an Excel template, so anyone who works with Excel, I can certainly get the get you a copy of the Excel file. Some people don't work with Excel, which is fine. Then it can come to you as a PDF, and then you can just write on it, fill in the blank, and one of us as business advisors are happy to be the scribe and help you fill it in.
Yeah. And I was laughing when you were saying you have to find the people that do enjoy the areas you don't like. And we have quite a few business advisors, and one of them who really love numbers. And so it's great to have them on your side. Sure. It looks like, could you tell us a little bit more about the market research that we provide? I think that's Teresa's question.
Sure. There's a certain amount of market industry data that we have access to, a couple of databases that give some very broad information. Like if it's a bed and breakfast, we can pull off some industry data, industry reports for bigger industries that might talk to you about what is the average amount of marketing budget that goes for a B&B. What's their average labor cost? So we can get some large industry data that can often be helpful to clients. I find that it can be helpful in a broad sense, but actually the best marketing research is done by someone doing their own, right? Because so many of our businesses are what I think of as hyper local, right? What's happening at a B&B in Bangor really is very different than what's happening at a B&B where you are toward Portland. So the industries are different in different spaces. We do, however, have access to some social media consultants. I don't know if that was part of the question, but we can tap to some social media consultants who deal with website, social media strategy, website, and Facebook, and also someone who is a QuickBooks Pro advisor. So you can reach out to a business advisor and we can set you up with them. There's not a charge to you, but it's all run through the business advisor. So it's not a linking you to them as a standalone, but we always, as business advisors, participate in those sessions.
Great. And would you be would collectively, that group, be able to help coming up with the questions that are being like asking the potential customer. So as the research is being done, do you guys help like figure out how to do that personally? Like if they're doing it themselves, do you direct
Gotcha.
how they do it?
Certainly we do. And some of my colleagues, so all of us definitely as business advisors have marketing 101 down. That's a part of our core toolkit, if you will. And I find that oftentimes what I find is just a conversation with someone's helpful, because a lot of times you know more than you think you do. And sometimes the conversation will help bubble things up to the surface about where you want to head, where you don't want to head, where people are asking you for goods or services. But a conversation can often help bubble up ways to focus or brainstorm ideas of things to try.
Great. Teresa, let us know if, we got a thumbs up. So it seems like you answered it.
All right.
Great. And then a few people are asking, is there a template for the bus plan that you would suggest?
Business plan, I think, yeah.
Business plan? Yeah. I know, I was wondering, I was like, did I miss something? Bus? Was
Oh,
there
I
a bus?
could use the bus plan too.
I think there's somebody who's converting a bus here, right? Isn't there's some food truck people here? So I was confused also about that question.
Yeah. You know, there are certainly templates out there, and I can pull up some. To me, the point would be to think about that outline. Think about the 3 things that are really the 4 sections: business description, marketing plan, management and operations, and the financial piece. Those are the core pieces. And I can certainly, and so if you think about those, hopefully that will help you cut through some of the fog about where to focus, because most any business plan template will have all those sections, though they might order them slightly different or call them out into a different number of sections. But someone can certainly reach out to me and I can provide business plan. So there's some templates that I have, but I tend to start, thank you, Kelsey. I tend to start not with a template because I find they're just overwhelming and take people down the wrong path. So.
Yeah, and so I just put a link in the chat that is it's a link to our new e-course online like digital education platform. I can't send a direct link to a direct course. I can only send you to the training website. But inside of there is a introduction to business plan writing. I can't remember the title of it now. How to create a business plan. There it is. Excellent. And that will go into everything that Ann said a little bit further. I cannot keep them all straight in my head off the top of my head. So I don't remember if there is a template, like a download. There are downloadable templates in many of them, but I'm unsure what is available with this one. So I apologize for that. But if you want to dig in a little deeper before you meet with a business advisor, I would suggest that be the next place you go. And then I was also going to put the peers and pros sign up link.
Right, yeah, and thank you, Kelsey. I sort of ran over it quick, went by it quickly, but there's the peers and pros. But if you go to our website, mainesbdc.org, and go to the drop down, I think that says Learn, you'll find access to the online webinars, to the live webinars like today, as well as the recorded ones, as well as that e-platform, right, Kelsey? Isn't that where that is? So
exactly. So dig around in there.
yeah.
One question was, how much of a draft business plan should be created before meeting with an advisor?
Actually, that's a great question, because to me, it's not a requirement, right? To me, you don't have to have a business plan draft in order to say, I want to talk with an advisor. Sometimes quite frankly, I find it almost better if you see us sooner rather than later. Once you have an idea, I'm not very good at helping you decide if you want to become a window washer or a cake baker, right? I don't know your background. So once you've decided my passion is around making cookies and I want to make a business around this, then we can help with that. So once you have that idea, you're certainly welcome to jump in and call us, reach out to one of us and set up an appointment. And then we can work with you to customize that plan specific to your needs and interest. But it's a great question. And the way to do that is to go to mainesbdc.org. Up in the corner, there's this goldenrod button. It says request advising, and it'll take you about 2 minutes. It's not a long form, but you can fill it out with a little bit of contact information. If there's an advisor you're requesting, you can put that in. If not, you will be connected with the one who's in your geographic area. Oh, I do see a question coming across about, yeah, those who have great ideas. Yes, I have certainly had folks who, once they worked on their business plan, decided that's not where they wanted to head, which was great. I mean, that saved them time, resources from going down a path that wasn't ultimately helpful to them. I've definitely had clients who worked on the cash flow projection and found it very enlightening, right? They found that where they thought they wanted to go, the numbers just weren't going to work. It was going to take too much labor, or I wanted this plan where I only work 4 days a week because it's important for me to spend time at home with my children and family on nights and weekends. But it turned out I couldn't, with what I thought I would have for revenue, I couldn't afford that amount of labor in order to support the business. So I could not be there, that I was going to have to work in the business at least for the first 2 years to get started, for instance. So oftentimes that process is very informative, or one maybe makes a bit of a turn and finds that they need to go a different direction because of the planning process. Hopefully I answered the question and not just rambled.
Yeah, that was great all around. We did, another question came in just asking, if the initial research that's done indicates that no one else is doing the service, does that mean that the service isn't needed? But I suggested maybe there's a lot of room for growth there.
Yeah, I would say this, and a question I often ask clients around their marketing plan, and it sounds very crass, but I learned it from another colleague in the past who I very much respected. And the phrase was 2 questions around marketing. So what and who cares? In other words, so what am I offering? What's my good product, service, and who cares? Do enough people care about what I want to do to make it into a business? I got a little lost. Maybe I did or didn't answer your question, but so just because there's a gap, maybe it's because nobody wants it, right? Or is it a gap that nobody's discovered yet? You know, it's like the Apple thing. Can you drive people to something they don't know yet? But sometimes it's because there's not enough out there, or it's not enough of a change agent for people to go in that direction. Quick story, I guess I'll tell it, is one time I thought about purchasing a little pizza store that was up for sale in the small coastal town that I lived in. And I thought, I'll it fit with my food background. I thought I could run it, et cetera, et cetera. And I was talking with about a person who owned a local business and was somewhat surprised when he said, yeah, it's a pretty good idea, but it might be 2 years before I darken your doors. And I thought, well, whoa, that's an insult. But what he was saying is that people have their patterns. He always went every morning to the convenience store, had his cup of coffee, talked with the locals, and that was his patterns. And it might take 2 years for someone to change their patterns. So remember that because you think it today doesn't mean they're coming in the door tomorrow. So remember there's that lag of people have their patterns. They go certain places and get services in a certain place now. And how long will it take for them to shift to you if you're the provider of that good or service?
Yeah, they're saying be persistent in the chat, which is definitely persistence is the big word for this year. So
it is, right? But do your research as well. And it does take persistence to be a small business owner, because every day is not smooth, believe me.
No, it's not. But we're here to help whenever possible. So everyone's saying thank you and they agree that it's helpful. I'd say that just from attending so many of these, my biggest takeaway has been this does seem like a lot of work,
Right.
but it's going to save you a lot of work and it may save you a lot of heartache, more
Yes.
importantly.
That's hopeful. We can't prevent it all, but we can at least hopefully cut off some avenues that would definitely not be helpful. So I appreciate everyone coming. They're welcome to reach out to me later or to reach out to the network. Again, we do have an incredible network in Maine, and I say that having been here for over 15 years. So, but I'm really proud of all the people I work with. It's just an awesome group.
We do have a particularly good group, but I may be biased. So, so yes, everyone is saying thank you so much.
Yes, and I echo what Chris said. See us before you sign the lease, right? Because if you've got money on the line, it's hard to back out of it sometimes. Sometimes actually when people have started their business because they didn't need to get to the lender, or they thought they could do it without getting a loan, so they just started up. Those are the ones that give me heartburn sometimes, because it's like, oh, I wish I could have told you X, Y, and B. Not that we got all the answers, but sometimes just to throw it against the wall to somebody who's totally neutral isn't going to just say, yes, that's a great idea because I want to come eat dinner with you at Thanksgiving like I always do, and I don't want to hurt your feelings. Sometimes it's just a neutral place. You know, there's not a charge for our services, and we do have, all of us have business experience. So.
Exactly. So yeah, so like we said earlier, come before you even start your business plan. Now you've started out. Now you know you need a business plan. But what next? We suggest you request advising, and then go from there, and then do the e-course, and then just baby steps all the way through, and you'll be all set. Yeah, one more recommendation is don't forget to talk to your local planning, zoning people and the zoning boards, because yikes.
Yep. And that's certainly part of the peers and pros cohort when we drill down into more of the licensing kind of stuff there. But again, thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest in the topic, for at least being willing to drill down deeper into what you might need in order to be successful. So
yes. And thank you so much, Ann. Excellent presentation. Thank you to the Carver Library for asking us to do this. Thank you to everyone who came and joined, spent your lunch break with us. I'll send out that follow-up email later today with the link to the recording and the slides, and
let us know what else would be helpful to you. What are there other topics out there that you're not getting your answers to that you'd like to try to do if it becomes a lunch and learn, then that's great. Are there other topics that would be helpful to you?
Yes. Oh, feel free to reach out with questions, concerns, suggestions. And Ann said it before, we kind of are a wall to throw spaghetti at, so we'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. So have a great afternoon, everyone.